I'm only one drink away from the devil. I'm only one call away from home.
Welcome back to episode 3 of Unbandaged. As our audience is exploding, I want to give a big shout out to the University of Pennsylvania frat boys from last year, Apes Fraternity, who has been listening to us and spreading the word around campus, and all the frat boys from University of Pennsylvania. And a special shout out to our friend, or a frat guy, Carter Prince, who is playing in the U.S. Amateur Qualifier next week. We all hope he does great. Gavi and I are having so much fun with this podcast that we just started. And good morning, Gavi. How are you?
Okay, Cutty. How are you?
Well, I have to tell you, we are now, obviously, again, the number one podcast in America. We started out, according to our unofficial records, our first episode, we had 817 listeners. Now, last week, we're at, I have a number written down, 4,437. It's like a Jerry Lewis telethon, where the thing keeps... And then hopefully after today, we're going to be at over 10,000. And I want to give a big shout out to all our friends. This is our first live episode, but to all our friends that we sent episode 1 and 2 for listening and supporting us and spreading it around to all their friends. So here we are. And the first item on the agenda, obviously, is these fires in Canada that are spreading across the United States. And we have a comment. We think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris singularly fixed the immigration problem with these fires, and Gavi will address the fires. But so all these immigrants are swimming across the border, and they get to the other side and they see the buses that say to New York, and they jump back in the water and go back to Mexico. They're like, the air's better in Mexico. We're not going to go to New York where the air's horrible. But America has been fighting fires everywhere. We're spending billions of dollars in Ukraine, and here we are, and we're not helping out the Canadians. And Gavi has a really good take on this issue.
Yeah, I just... I don't understand. First of all, I don't understand why after President Biden had lunch with Kamala Harris yesterday, he called a lid. I don't understand why he's not in front of the country and at least talking about these fires. I mean, we have the airports were closed for a short time. People are being told to stay inside. So I don't know why he isn't in front of this story and telling the U.S. citizens what he's doing to help the situation. We have these planes with the fire retardant that we see with the red dye that comes down that puts out the fires. Why aren't we sending our planes to Canada? If they need help, why aren't we helping them? Because after all, the wind goes south and it affects us. So why are we just sitting here letting Trudeau handle this situation when it's obviously it's overwhelmed him? So, again, it's a type of thing where if I'm Kamala Harris is in charge of our border, and if these guys get on a bus or a plane and they get off in New York and they look at like the apocalypse,
they're get back on the bus.
Yeah, not only are they getting back on the bus, there's a lawyer there waiting for them to basically. They could probably sue us for reparations
because they can't breathe the air.
Yeah, they can't breathe the air, and that's not what they signed up for. So I'm sure there's probably some damages that maybe Biden wants to give them, like $100,000 for inconveniencing them. On the journey,
a free Rolex watch.
Yeah, they got on a plane. It was like it wasn't what they signed up for. They thought they were going to have like a hotel. They didn't know that in their kit, besides a phone, they were getting a mask.
But your point is so good, because in California they're so used to fighting these gigantic. In fact, there's fires out there now. Why aren't they using those resources to go to Canada and help them and fix this? Because it's my son works on Wall Street, brand new, first job on Wall Street. And I called him yesterday. I said, how are the fires up there? Are they affecting you? He said, Dad, I'm saving a fortune. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, we can't go out for lunch, so it doesn't cost me $30 a day. The company buys lunch. They want us to stay inside. They're worried about the air. It's just a real problem.
Yeah, what's crazy is with all the mainstream media, all the news, all you hear about is they show you the fires, but no one tells you what they're doing. What is the United States doing to help the situation rather than saying, here's a mask, stay inside? Why isn't there someone saying this is what we're working on? It can maybe, where it's 30% controlled, because in the United States, we always say, here's a fire, we have it under 10% controlled, 30% controlled. You don't hear anything. All we know is that there's 6 million acres are being burned right now.
And obviously it'll create inflation because they're the biggest lumber producer, and it's going to affect housing and lumber and things like that. It's just a big mess. And once again, I mean, we'll get into Joe Biden and everything, but he really has to react here because now it's affecting America. It's a big problem.
It's another little crisis. It's the worst air pollution in New York, in the history of New York.
Terrible. So yesterday, Gavi and I are sitting around my kitchen table, and we're trying to come up with our bullet points and things to discuss this week, and we're laughing our ass off, having so much fun talking about this stuff. But one of the things we want to talk about is Martha Stewart on the cover of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition. This is iconic. I mean, when I was 14, 15, and I love Martha. Let me start at Martha Stewart, brilliant. When she was sentenced to federal prison for a minor accounting error, she went in, she did her time, she didn't complain, she got out, she rebuilt her brand and became gigantic again. But Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition, when I was a kid, it's $17 now. I bought it. I was like, $17? That's a lot of money. But when I was a kid, I bought it. I don't know where I got the money and how much it was. And it literally sat under my bed for a month. Who was on it? Who were the great stars? Christy Brinkley. And
Cheryl Tiegs.
They had, and the whole idea was, this is a swimsuit edition of showing off the most beautiful women in the world and how they look in these bathing suits, and it's a once in a year thing. And here we have Martha Stewart on the cover, and look, I like Martha Stewart, but I mean, are they is the target market going to buy this? An 81? I mean, I understand political correctness, and I'm not going to say anything negative about her, but in reality, this is an 81-year-old woman on the cover of what is probably the most iconic editions of all time.
I don't know what they think their target audience is, but I think they're wrong because they missed the boat on this. I think people are looking to see how little the bikinis can get now. I mean, they're getting smaller and smaller, and then the next thing you know, you have Martha Stewart on the cover. I think a lot of people are looking at her and they're saying, what watch is she wearing? What earrings? They're looking at her earrings and her bracelet. They're not looking at Martha Stewart. I mean, she looks great for someone in their 80s. Fantastic. But I think there should maybe be like a section in the section of this Sports Illustrated that, you can put someone like Martha Stewart.
And they have beautiful pregnant women, younger pregnant women that look fantastic.
You can put a transgender in that section. You can put someone with a beard in that section. But it's a special section that is not for the people that are wearing the skimpy thong bikinis. That's not, Martha's not going to wear a thong bikini.
Right. And I guess maybe people believe, I always thought that her and Snoop Dogg were getting busy there, but, she does have a little bit of a wild side to her. I just think
she's great. She happens to be great.
She's great, but I think this is more of a Vanity Fair, Vogue magazine,
100%.
Hey, you look great. You're 81. You don't need to be in this iconic edition, Sports Illustrated. It's just...
Again, it's sports. It's sports combining politics and sports and trying to be politically correct when it should be separate. It should be separate. They're crossing the line again on the target audience.
And I guess the issue is political correctness. I mean, where is the line on all this stuff? And where do you go too far? And what's right and what's wrong? And it just seems like a lot of things are getting a pass now because everybody's scared, especially after this Bud Light.
And Target.
And Target's down what, market cap 25%, 17, $20 billion. I mean,
Right, crazy.
astronomical number. But you almost don't, I guess these CEOs where they fail, not because they made a bad marketing decision, but maybe they fail in crisis management. They should.
And I think social media. I don't think they're up to speed on how fast things can change now, where it's at lightning speed.
And that's the problem. It's just when you and I grew up, we didn't have internet. We had a TV that had the rabbit ears on it. We didn't have cable. I remember the first cell phone. It came in like a suitcase. It weighed like 40 pounds. You had it on your,
and had to wait for a signal.
Right. You had to get on the top of the hill at the exact right spot. Otherwise you didn't get a signal. And then you're in a conversation, you lose it. Well, I guess you still do now. But getting back to Martha Stewart and looking at the bathing suits and all that stuff, I can only think of this stuff that's going on with Lululemon. I mean, it is crazy.
What I don't get, again, with the CEOs of Lululemon, they have their staff that works there, and they work really hard.
Wait, let's move it back so people understand our topic here is. Go ahead, you tell.
Okay, our topic is that the CEO of Lululemon, they just fired a couple of employees for basically trying to stop a shoplifter from walking out with Lululemon merchandise. And
literally ran after. So these cute little girls are working in this store, and these big guys come in hoodies, and they run after them. I mean, they're willing to tackle these guys.
Yeah, they end up getting fired for this, and the person who called 911 got reprimanded for calling 911, and they basically told them that their policy is not to stop anybody that's trying to shoplift. But the people in the store, they're getting frustrated, the customers, because if they're standing in line and they want to pay for something and you just watch someone walk out with a bunch of merchandise, you feel like an idiot paying for it. Now, if I was like the CEO, why can't they put on display merchandise that is XXX small or XXX large?
In the front of the store.
In the front of the store.
The stuff you can't sell.
The stuff that you can't sell. And that way, in the back, when they see something that they want, you can bring out, oh, we have your size. That way, when someone wants to put and steal your Lululemon, they have to find someone with that's 40 pounds that can wear their stuff. It's just easy. But why are they just keep reloading the store? And if they steal the stuff that's a XXX small, they're insured for it. It would be a great sale for Lululemon that they would be able to get their insurance money on stuff.
But let's assume you work at the store. Why don't you just call your friends? You're a college kid. Call your friends up and say, hey, look, come on in the store. I'll show you the direction for the best stuff in the store. Walk out. I can't follow you.
You mean like you get a special price like for friends and family?
Yeah.
And that's a little better than friends and family.
Come on, walk out, take it. I'm going to, in the left-hand corner is your size. I have the blues and the blacks.
I already have the bag put away for you. I have it put away. Just walk out the door.
Yeah, just walk out the door. We're not going to chase you. Don't worry about it. I mean, it is so ludicrous, and this isn't for today. And, hopefully a lot of our listeners are lawyers, but I think lawyers are creating a lot of this problem because if an employee runs after a hoodie bad guy and tackles him and breaks her ankle.
Or calls 911.
Or calls and breaks her ankle, she's going to sue her employer, Lululemon, to get money. And this is what this is where everything seems to be going anymore. Everybody's practicing business litigation because a friend of mine is a pediatrician, doctor, and many years ago, I remember he used to get all these calls when he was on call at night. And anymore, he just says, go to the emergency room. He doesn't do anything on the phone anymore. He's practicing medical litigation because he's afraid.
Well, I think one solution that we're going to see, I think that we're being trained actually, is I think that a lot of these companies, Lululemon, Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS, eventually, instead of them being on the ground floor and locking up all their merchandise, with all the empty office space that's available now from workers not coming back to work, why shouldn't CVS just take the fourth floor of an office building, the entire floor, and that way, that when someone wants to take the elevator up, if they want to steal it, they have to push the elevator to go down. It will cut down on the, and that way, if you want something that's in a drugstore, instead of going in ground level, you will just have to be inconvenienced a little bit to take an elevator to the fourth floor, rather than waiting for a guy to open up a glass case to give you your toothpaste.
This is, I guess, why, Amazon and all this online buying is getting so popular, because these retail stores just don't want to exist anymore. It just doesn't pay.
Right. I agree.
You have a situation where it's tough to get good employees. Then you watch on TV, these gangs just run into stores and they just annihilate the store in 2 seconds flat. And it's just so difficult retail environment.
And it's just so far down on the police's radar to even stop them. If you go through it, they're going to be back out immediately afterwards. So it's just like we're living in a society right now where it's like it's okay to shoplift. That's what it's really come down to.
It's just an absolute mess. Last night we enjoyed. Or I didn't enjoy. My team, Miami Heat, lost. It wasn't fun. We're back on basketball. It's the finals. We've been at it all season. We're at Denver and Miami, and the first two games were at Denver. They split them 1-1. Now the next game comes, and it's a long commute from Miami to Denver and back. But now the game last night is in Miami, and we're down at six feet above sea level, so they're breathing better. And Miami got smoked on this game, Gavi.
They did. They got smoked. Let's just say that they came back, they surprised everybody, and they won Game 2. And they won Game 2. Denver got off to a nice lead in that game, and then they kind of underestimated Miami, and they're a scrappy team, and they came back, and that's why you're hearing things like it's the Miami way, it's their culture, it's Miami culture. You never heard that on any other team. You never hear that's the 76ers culture, or that's the Minnesota Timberwolves culture. But here, all you hear is it's the Miami culture. So they're a team that doesn't give up, and they generally they give 100% effort. So they have now, again, a do-or-die game coming up on Friday night. If they lose, it's over. They're not going to win.
So I wrote this down, and just correct me if I'm right or wrong. So there's 2 games in Denver. Then it goes 2 games Miami. So there's another game in Miami.
Right.
Then it goes 1 game back in Denver if they make it that far. Then they fly back to Miami for another game. And then they fly back to Denver if it goes 7 games.
For Game 7.
This is a huge schedule. This is a tough schedule. I mean, you're flying back and forth.
But they're not flying the way that the average person flies. They get on, they go right from the arena, the plane's waiting for them, they're in their captain's chair, they're reclining, and it's and 4 hours later, someone's like handing their bags, unpacking it for them, and they go. It's not as much.
Not like how you and I fly.
No, it's not like that. So,
back in the bus, right?
Yeah, they're relaxing. They're having a good time on the plane.
We're back by the bathroom in the back. Yeah, we're like the back 3.
But it is something that here's this. And if you watched last night, what's really interesting, there's a guy for the Denver Nuggets. His name is Jokic. And
how tall is he? 7?
No, he's not. He's like 6. He's like 6'11", but his nickname is the Joker. And I found this interesting. No one's mentioned it, but during the game in Denver, Game 2, there was a guy in the Denver stadium that dressed up as the Joker, like from the Batman and the Joker. And it was only not that long ago. Maybe I'm just getting older and it seems like everything's yesterday, but it must have been within the last 10 years that there was a shooting in a movie theater outside of Denver in Aurora Hills, where it was a Batman movie. And the guy was dressed as the Joker.
Wow.
Who came into the movie theater and shot up everybody. And I would think that would be the last time I would want to see a Joker showing up in a public place. But he was there.
All right, so what's your prediction? Next game. It's in Miami. The series now is 2-1.
I think Denver wins in 5. They're going to win the next.
So you think Denver beats Miami in Miami?
Yes, and then I think they win in Denver.
What's really cool, Gabi and I were talking about it, you know, if you're watching a game in Cleveland, I mean, okay, it's Cleveland, but Miami, you have the TV is panning all the celebrities on the floor. You see Jack and
the outside, when you see the Ferris wheel and the boats and the cruise ships, it's a sexy city.
Yeah, it's like not only is it a basketball game, it's entertaining because you see all these superstars that are sitting on the wood, paying whatever the floor, paying whatever they're paying to watch this game, and it's just unbelievable. It's a show.
Well, if you're a free agent and you're a young 23-year-old basketball player and you're a free agent, wouldn't you want to come to Miami, or would you want to say Detroit?
Yeah, I'll go live in Detroit.
I mean,
like the new mayor of Detroit.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's such a great it's just a great city to like basically get players to come here, Los Angeles, New York. Other than that, it's just about the money.
There was a great TV show with The Rock. It just it ended maybe 2 years ago. It was based down in Miami. What was it called? Ballers?
Yeah, that was a good show.
That was a great show. He was so cool in it.
Yeah.
He owned an NFL team, and he was just he was a bad dude. He was great. He was a lot of fun.
NFL players don't have the same money as NBA ball players, except for the quarterbacks and left tackles.
And why do these offensive linemen make so much money? I can't. Is that like you need to be the smartest guy on the field to be?
And you got to protect the quarterback.
You got to protect the big guy.
The quarterbacks today make in 4 years what most of these owners paid for their entire team.
Right.
20 years ago, 15 years ago. Isn't that crazy?
It's so nuts. But staying on sports this week, we have a great story. It's the PGA and LIV merging. And for those, we'll give you a little background for people that aren't really familiar with. PGA has been around forever, and that's where all the great golfers are. And Saudi Arabia, their investment fund, started their own golf division, competing with the PGA, and stole the top PGA, or 5 or 10 of the top PGA players. Phil Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, who just won the PGA. Phil Mickelson was number 2 in the Masters. Bryson DeChambeau, because even though they were fighting leagues, they were allowed to play in the 4 major tournaments. So here we have where, let's say a guy like Phil Mickelson got $200 million to switch to this LIV, and then we have people at the PGA like a Rory McIlroy that stood up, basically stuck their dick out and defended the PGA. I'm allowed to say that on podcast, I think, and defended the PGA, and here he got nothing. And now all of a sudden there's a merger.
Right, but, first of all, let's just clear up when everybody's talking that there's a merger. I think I don't think it's quite a merger. LIV bought the PGA Tour.
Right.
So everybody thinks it's a merger and it's going to be called the PGA Tour, and they think that that's who really did the buying. No, the Saudis bought the PGA Tour, and they bought the European Tour. So if Rory McIlroy doesn't want to play for the Saudis, then he has to take up tennis or pickleball because his golf is over. And someone like Tiger Woods, who was offered $800 million.
And everybody said, oh, yeah, it's $800 million. I don't know. You sleep a lot better when you get an extra $800 million.
You feel like an idiot that you didn't take it. And all these guys are coming back 1 year later, and they're like the stars now. And I don't know if they can compensate them. Some people are saying, well, are they going to give Rory McIlroy, or are they going to give John Rahm, or are they going to give them some money because they didn't go? And honestly, the Live Tour owns it now. So the Saudis own it. They don't have to give them anything. They can say, sorry, you made the wrong choice. You picked the wrong horse. And it's funny, there's when the Golf Channel, there's an announcer, Chambly, is it correct? Chambly, and he was like...
He's a real asshole.
Yeah, and he was like bad-mouthing Phil Mickelson on how could you take Saudi money? You know, you're like a lowlife to take it. The PGA should mean more to you. And it's $200 million. And Tom Harmon III came to Phil Mickelson.
He's a great... who's Tom Harmon?
Tom Harmon is his father and grandfather. They were like tennis instructors that basically were like Tiger Woods' swing coach, all the top golfers. And he's like, once you get to that level, a Butch Harmon III is someone that you work your golf game with. And he came to Phil Mickelson's defense and said that Chambly, when NBC was doing the Olympics, televising the Olympics in Russia and in China, he didn't give his money back. He
Right.
took the money. So why is he telling someone else what to take the money? And why does the United States, no one say that we do billions of dollars with Saudi Arabia, we do billions of dollars with China, but the golf player is supposed to turn around to his wife and say, I'm not going to take the 200.
Well, how does this guy eat crow? I mean, he was Donald Trump was right at the very beginning. Donald Trump again. Russia, wrong. Donald, and I'm not standing up for Donald Trump, but he was right.
He was 100% right.
And when this live thing started, Donald Trump said, hey, this guy Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, they have a family, they have responsibilities, they have kids. Somebody's offering you $200 million. It's not bus fare. That's like goodbye money.
Right.
Why shouldn't they take it? And everybody criticized Trump. How could you do that?
And you get to work a third of the less. You don't have to a third of the less you get to work.
But everybody said, Saudi Arabia, they're inhumane, they're this and that. Well, they had a anti-competitive lawsuit against the PGA because the PGA fired every one of these great golfers that went to live.
And wanted a monopoly.
And the lawsuit was coming down the pike and about to happen. It was about to start trial. And they were going to lose. The PGA was going to lose.
Not just lose. They were going to lose the whole tour. So actually, they made a pretty good deal by merging.
Right.
Because they wouldn't have had any tour.
They would have lost everything. So how can you say Saudi Arabia was inhumane? They paid them. They could have gotten it for free. But that's another issue. It's just crazy that, and the second thing that really happened that we talked about was because these live players could play in the four majors, the PGA, the Masters, the British Open, the U.S. Open. In the last two tournaments, the Masters, Phil Mickelson, a live player, came in second, 46-year-old guy. In the PGA, the top 3 out of 5 were live players.
Right. And they were nervous that with the U.S. Open coming up, they didn't want it to be again that the top 5 finishers were going to be live players again because the ratings for the PGA were going down after these majors.
So how do you bury this storyline? They're just the Saudi people were painted as inhumane, and how could they do it? But now they own it. They merge. How does PGA bring their brand back? Well,
they're going to fire the commissioner. He's probably on a hourly watch right now on how long he's going to be fired.
They took the knives out of his office.
Yeah, but the only thing that you have, his name I think is Monahan, is his last name. The only thing that he doesn't mind being fired is there's probably some golden parachute that we don't know about he probably got more money than Phil Mickelson got. Right. He probably has $200 million to walk away from this fiasco that he has. And it really is something. I would love to be a fly on the wall to see Bryson DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson and Koepka to come into that locker room at the U.S. Open and say, "Hi, fellas.
Yeah,
how's everything?
How you
going?
doing? By the way, my private jet that I just bought from Live Money is in the parking lot. Oh, sorry, you didn't take any of that money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's terrible.
Yeah, let me show you my new home that I bought in London.
Yeah, for cash. So, I guess we're coming down to all these new people getting into the race. This week, Chris Christie got into the race, and the Republican side. And we have Robert Kennedy Jr. surging on the Democratic side. And,
He's appealing to Republicans.
yeah, but the issue is, we talked about Robert Kennedy always, and I'm not making fun of him, and Chris Christie is he's huge. And there's a study out that says that executives over 6 feet tall make more money per year than an executive that's 5'8" or 5'6". And if you look at the past presidents, you look at Bill Clinton, good-looking guy. You look at Barack Obama, good-looking guy. You look at Donald Trump, tall, handsome, gorgeous suit. He's always dressed impeccably. And, I think people look at people and visualize them, and it may give them an edge up on voting. And here you have Chris Christie, obviously, who is probably going to go on Ozempic like we talked about.
But it is pretty funny that, for everybody being politically correct, one of the things why some people hate Donald Trump and why some people happen to think he's just very funny. Like when he sees Chris Christie kind of like hit him and punch him and try to say bad things about Donald Trump, he comes back and he makes like Chris Christie is standing in front of a buffet holding a plate of food, which Chris Christie had to direct that the guy's a baby and that he should be sent to his room, not to the White House. But to a lot of people out there, they think it's funny. And you know what? I think it's pretty funny to see something like that. And
I talk to my kids, all my kids, I'm not bragging, I'm a humble person, but all my kids went to super liberal Ivy League colleges. And, I asked them about this and they say, I'm not voting for him. He's too fat. I'm like, wait a second, you have this edge. Don't you care what he has to say? And it's like this Robert Kennedy Jr. I can't listen to him. I get it. He has dysphagia or whatever his disease is.
But I like what he stands for. He went to the border. I don't understand. He's at the border. Trump's at the border. Everybody's at the border. But the borders are. I mean, she's not there, or Biden's not there. So Robert Kennedy is like, he's doing everything that they're not doing. Everything they're not doing, he's doing. So all of a sudden, people are starting to take notice. And now the big question is, how many more people are going to jump on his wagon that Biden's going to have to have a debate with? Because don't you think we're at a stage that this country needs to have debates? I mean, should it be that you just walk out, you could both be 80 years old, and you don't get to go in front of the country taking questions and answering them? Why can't we have debates?
Well, there's a great African-American sportscaster, Stephen A. Smith, Democrat, liberal. And I was listening to him, 2 days ago?
He's spot on.
Spot on. He said, really? This is America. And we're voting for an 82-year-old guy. I mean, okay, Joe Biden, I like him, whatever he's saying.
This is the best we got.
We're voting for an 82-year-old guy that has to be walked on stage so he doesn't trip over. So, go to the left, go to the right, follow the blue marker. I mean, his commentary was amazing.
Right. I mean, this is the best we got. I mean, we can't and then we have to protect him, that we can't even let someone else give their views against him, who, by the way, he has 20%. Right now, he's polling at 20%, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, but can you imagine the two? It's like a Saturday Night Live skit. The two of them on a debate stage. Robert F. Kennedy, you can't understand a word he's saying, the way he talks. And you have Joe Biden, who's like somewhat unconscious without the monitors telling him what to say. And these two guys are debating. I think we need better people. Now, Goldberg once again predicted this. He said, Joe Manchin. Well, did you watch the news today?
Right. Joe Manchin, he will be, he did not want, he basically, reading between the lines, he's going to be running. And you know what? He has no competition out there. His only competitor in this race is Joe Biden. And Joe Biden might not make it through. A year and a half is a long time from him, because the Republicans will not be going against Joe Biden. They will be going against Kamala Harris.
Well, that's the entire issue. I mean, you have to assume if you're voting for Joe Biden, you're voting for Kamala Harris.
So now that when you start bringing that out and you keep pounding that out there, that it is the Republicans versus Kamala Harris, Joe Manchin's going to put his hat in the ring. And you know what? Democrats are going to say he's better than having Donald Trump, and Republicans can say, I can live with him. He's okay.
So he runs as a Democrat.
He runs as a Democrat.
And at what point can this guy, Joe Biden, bail out? How long can he stay in this thing? I mean, when it gets
Depending on what happens with Hunter Biden, depends what happens with this FBI that's now letting everybody read the transcripts of if there was a bribe or not. So there's a lot that's out there that could affect everybody. There's a lot that could affect Donald Trump. Oh, he could be indicted. So then what do you have?
Well, I mean, that would be the second time he got indicted in this in this year, Donald Trump, and it would be tragic. The guy's polling ahead of Joe Biden.
He gets stronger every time they do something. He just gets stronger and stronger.
But it's like almost like a third world, Russia, whatever. You're arresting your Venezuela.
Right.
You're arresting your opponent.
It's unbelievable. In our lifetime, it is unbelievable what we are witnessing amongst the part. And what's interesting is there's a Democratic Congressman Rafkin, and he got to see the transcript from this FBI with Ray, and when he got to see it, he was told 4 times what's in it, and then he got up in front of the people in front of the microphones. And he lied. And they told him 4 times what it was until Bill Barr had to come up and say that's not true.
Right.
I mean, it got to a point where it's like, can't someone just? Can't we have checkers? What are they?
Fact checkers.
Can't we have fact checkers at the bottom of the TV?
Yeah, that's a lie. He didn't say
right.
that.
So when we watch it at the bottom of your TV, instead of us keeping score and doing it for ourselves, can't we have a fact checker scoreboard there so we know if it's a Republican that lies, it just says lie, lie.
Right.
Democrat lie.
He never played baseball.
Right, and then we can figure out that we have a bunch of liars, and now let's get a person that gives you. I think we need fact checkers at the bottom of the screen, just like they do all the other stuff on TVs. Like if it's first down, they give you the time that you have 3rd and 3. Let me know, like the guy just lied twice. I want to keep score as it's going in real time.
Well, this is the problem that I see for the Democrats, and it's a controversial conversation, and they're flagging us. I can't believe the show is over already. I mean, I have 3 pages here. We didn't get to any of them. It's crazy, but it's the Democrats picked. Shout out to my friends at Lifetime Fitness. Every morning I work out with them 5:30 to 7:30. I work out next to this girl. I mean, she's a stone cold 10. And all my friends asked me before I turned the machine on why I'm sweating profusely. And I said, well, look who I'm wearing. But she wrote out phonetically for me, Kamala Harris, because evidently I don't know how to say it. But the issue is Kamala Harris was picked because she's an African-American woman. They need to get rid of her on the ticket for Joe Biden, but for the same reason they picked her. How do they get rid of her? Because she's an African-American female vice president of the United States. How do you change out of that? It's impossible. I mean, they find themselves in a bind if they want to put in Joe Manchin as vice president. So they know they're going to get an extra 8 years out of the deal. You know, if Joe Biden goes down, they're going to have Joe Manchin there. What's the option?
So you talk politics at Lifetime Gym as you're working out?
So, you know, there's a diverse group of people there, and everybody tries to keep it really pretty light. But they are one of the 4,437 people that listened to us last week, and you know they all say, well, say this, do that, you know, talk about this, talk about. And by the way, I bounce stuff off of everybody there. What do you think of this? You know, do you think it's inappropriate to talk about Martha Stewart in a bathing suit?
You know, I was on the elliptical yesterday for an hour, and it went pretty well. You know, I couldn't believe that. You know, I I didn't do anything.
You're looking good, Gavi.
I didn't do anything. I just stood there for an hour just to know what it feels like. And now I'm going to start to use the pedals the next time.
Yeah.
To see, what happens.
Right.
But I got the feel. I wanted to know what an hour feels like.
You have the movement. So I guess the last thing we're going to talk about, then I guess they're flagging us here. We have to go, unless we put more money in the meter. I mean, down here in Boca Raton, they're putting meters everywhere. It's $74 to get a parking ticket. But Gavi, once again, predicted this. Jenny Craig announced after 4 decades, they're going out of business.
Right.
Because of Ozempic.
Yeah, Weight Watchers, they were smart. They decided that they were going to team up with Ozempic. So if you join Weight Watchers, you get a special deal, and you can get your Ozempic needle where basically you could just
I guess they have a teledoc or something.
They're working with Ozempic. So basically, you could just forget Weight Watchers and just go to the needle. But the needle is where it's at, and all these other companies are going to start to fall by the wayside.
It's incredible. The whole weight loss industry is going to change.
You should put that in your book, in one of your chapters.
Right. So we're going to say goodbye. It was an unbelievable week. We had so much fun in this podcast. And I want to give a shout out to one of our key sponsors here, Kelly Cosmetics, Kaley Cosmetics with a K. Fantastic. Go on that website, and they're one of our sponsors. We have a couple other sponsors coming on board. I don't think anybody's going to give us $200 million like Liv.
Yeah, but we're going to be talking watches, and I have my sister-in-law Ashley that's maybe going to make a guest appearance. She's a firecracker, great personality.
Unbelievable.
She will add something to.
Beautiful woman.
Yeah, it will be great to have her here.
And we're lining up some incredible guests. One is a former president of the United States. He's going to do a call in, and he just wants to make sure that we're going to be fair and honest and truthful, and obviously we will. We're not going to sandbag anybody, and we're going to have we have a great author lined up, and we have some superstar basketball players that are customers of Gavi. So authors, yeah, we have a great future. Well, anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate the fact that we're over 4,000 now, and
you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other podcasts that you use.
Thank you so much. Have a great week, Gavi. Have a great week, everybody.
You too, Cutty.
We'll talk to you.